Alright guys, this is going to be a very different video than what you're used to seeing. It's going to be a little long and it's really not going to be all that fun, but it's something that I want to cover mainly as a business to business thing, and as somebody that owns a small business, kind of one of my experiences working with a company that is really going to change the way I do things. Not in a good way. So, you know, I don't want to be like super dramatic about it. That's not what this is about. But I own a small business. I live in a small community full of other small business owners. It's something very important to me, not only personally, but for my friends and my community. You know, it's something I take very seriously, and I try and support all of those people as much as I possibly can. With that being said, when I started this company, you know, I spent 16 years in manufacturing. I owned a small machine shop where I built hot rod and race car and motorcycle parts. I've been around fabrication most of my life. I'm pretty experienced when it comes to heavy equipment, manufacturing, farming. You know, it's literally what I've been around my entire life. So when I look for equipment, I'm very specific on what I'm looking for and what my expectations are. When I started this business, I found a company that I thought could provide me with good equipment and help my business grow. So the first mulching head I bought was a FECON head. It helped me get my business to where it is now. There's always certain frustrations, and this industry is extremely hard on equipment, and I'm very realistic about that. So some of my frustrations were self-induced, some of them were just the nature of the beast, you know, such as life. But when I get brand loyal, or I find companies or products that I am impressed with, which doesn't happen very often, I get very, very brand loyal, maybe to a fault. FECON is one of those companies that I never had any intention of going a different route. I would intentionally, you know, as I would look at buying new equipment or upgrading or whatever, I always just went straight to FECON. So this is a video I never thought I would be making, and forgive me guys, because I am actually working, so I'm just gonna kind of try and get this all out there and, you know, make this video. It is what it is, and I'm gonna put it all out there and let it be what it is. So like I said, I started my business running FECON heads. I never had any intention of buying a different brand. They were an American-made product, kind of a Midwest company. I had good dealer support at all the dealers that I've worked with, both when I was running Deere equipment and through Vermeer Midwest, which I have to say, Vermeer Midwest, even to this day, is hands down an amazing dealership, and they take care of me absolutely absolutely amazing. I'm in there all the time. They're my go-to. So they have actually saved FECON's butt up until this point, and we're going to get into that story shortly. This video is solely related to FECON. It started out, I had run a Blackhawk head for a while, and then I went to the Bullhog style with the DCR rotor, and that had the single bolt style, Blackhawk style knives on it. From day one, it's a terrible design. They're weak, and for a part that, for a knife that is going to contact not only trees, but rocks and soil and everything that goes along with it, to make the single attaching point the weakest part of the entire assembly is absolutely crazy. And why FECON ever okayed that design, I have no idea. That was one of my frustrations. I actually found an aftermarket company that had a far better design and used better quality material and was at least half the price, if not a little bit lower. So I resolved that situation with aftermarket parts. I was happy with it, at that, when it got to that point, it was a no point anymore, and I had found a way to resolve my issue. It was all good. The next frustration I had was I bought a cab guard when I bought my excavator and mulching head, which this is a FECON head. I bought a cab guard. It was a steel frame with a Lexan window that covers the glass window for obvious reasons, and I bought it from FECON. The dealership did not have one they could show me as a demo, so I kind of bought it sight unseen. When I got it, the frame was sheet metal, and I kind of wrote it off. I wasn't super happy with it, but I wrote it off because it didn't really need to be structural. It just had to hold the Lexan in place. So, okay, you know what? We'll move on to more important things. Come to find out, FECON used just regular straight Lexan, not scratch resistant, not coated. If anybody has ever dealt with Lexan in a dusty environment, the minute anything touches it, it is scratched. So any tree branch that touched that window scratched it, and I would rinse it off, then spray it with glass cleaner, and then clean it with the terry cloth towel. And within a couple months, it was literally scratched so bad that you could hardly see out of it. And it got to the point where I just had to take it off of the machine because it was starting to be a safety hazard. I couldn't see out of it clear enough to know where I was going with the machine. And when that stuff scratches, it picks up sunlight and it's just hazy. I actually had to take it off of the machine because it was starting to be a safety problem. That was frustration number 2. I just chalked it up to poor decisions and a poor product, wrote it off, and it's still sitting in my garage today. Frustration number 3. So I am not a large company. I don't have 20 of these machines sitting around. I don't have a whole fleet of backup units. When my machine goes down, that job does not get finished until my machine is repaired. It's just the way it goes. You know, I'd love to be one of those companies that could afford to have spare units and backups and all that kind of stuff. It's just not the reality of it. I can't justify the cost. So, last year, not quite a year ago, I was working on a very large project, about a month long, and partway through the project, I had a hose that got caught on a tree limb. It actually pulled into the mulching head and caused a pressure surge, which ended up basically grenading the hydraulic motor from the inside. When it happened, like I said, from the outside I couldn't tell exactly what had happened, so I called the factory and was talking with a service tech. I just wanted their input on what could possibly be wrong, and if there was anything I needed to look at, or if it was, like a catastrophic motor failure. So, talking with the tech, we went through a few things and figured out pretty quick that the motor was trash. Not a big deal. Stuff happens, it's part of life. So I am on the phone with the company that manufactured the head, and I just told them, I'm like, well, we know that the motor's bad. Let's get a new one on the way. I'll order one right now, and let's get this thing rolling so I can get back to work. All right, well, let me get you over to parts. So, talking to the parts guy, got the pump number, had everything ready to go, and he's like, just so you know, he's like, that pump is on back order, and it could be up to 8 weeks before we get you one. I cannot shut my business down for 2 months waiting for a part to show up. I was pretty frustrated, and at that point, I thought it was a supplier thing and they just couldn't get pumps. So I'm like, well, can we look at, do you guys have the ability to pull up like dealership inventory, or see if we can find one in inventory somewhere? I was like, I'll drive halfway across the country to pick up a pump if I absolutely have to, or the motor if I absolutely have to, because I can't be down for 8 weeks. And he's like, we actually have some inventory, but he's like, we have some inventory currently, and we also have another shipment on the way. But the way we're set up and the way we do it is all of our current inventory and the inventory that is in shipment right now actually goes to the assembly line, and if there's any extra units that aren't accounted for on the assembly line, then we start to release them to customers and dealers. So what we do is we put your name on a waiting list, and whenever that next pump comes available, we just go to the top of the list, and once we get to where you're at on the list, then we'll send you your pump. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. You're telling me that you currently have these pumps in inventory at the factory and you have more on the way, but you have at least one customer, if not multiple customers, in the field with equipment that is down, and your priority is to support the assembly line before you support an existing customer with a piece of down equipment? Yeah. I worked in manufacturing for an equipment manufacturer. If we had a customer down, I have physically seen parts people go to the assembly line and take parts out of stock on the assembly line to send to a customer to get them back up and running. If that means the assembly line had to wait until more of those parts showed up, then so be it. But the customer, it was always more important to get the customer running than it was to support the assembly line. And so at that point, I was extremely frustrated. And I could not believe, not only is that their policy, but they just blatantly, flat out said, we're more worried about making new units than we are supporting existing ones in the field. Like, to me, that is absolutely crazy, and it is not the way to run a business. So I hung up and I called Vermeer Midwest. And when I said Vermeer Midwest saved FECON's butt, this is exactly what I am talking about. Originally, I went straight to FECON because I needed some service support. I was already on the phone with them. I figured I'll just order it direct from the factory. Not a big deal. Normally, if I know exactly what part I need, I will just call Vermeer and order it straight from them. I just happened to be on the phone with the manufacturer and figured I'll order it from them while I'm already on the phone with them. So I called Vermeer, I told them the situation, and a couple hours later I got a phone call from them saying that they had found me a pump and they got me a pump in 4 days, which I don't know where it came from. I don't know how they got it. At that point in time, I didn't ask questions. I was just getting back to business. So that one sent me through the roof, and I about sold my head at that point in time. But like I said, I needed to get that project done. I needed to try and get caught back up from the downtime. And eventually I kind of cooled myself down and just figured, okay, you know what? I'm just going to roll with it and not be so pissed off and just, kind of let it be. But in the back of my head, that stuck around. So the final straw, and like I said, I am a small business. Small businesses are very dear to my heart, and it is small businesses that I have turned to solve design problems that FECON created. And what that means is I have never been happy with the knives that you buy directly from FECON. They are stupid expensive and the material just does not hold up very well. I've used 3 different knife designs from them. I've never been happy with either one, and they are normally at least twice as expensive as what I can find in the aftermarket. And the aftermarket, up until this point have actually been not only better materials, but better designs to fix the FECON design issues. So here I am, I got the head, I got my suppliers that I get my wear parts from, I'm in my own little world, just kind of doing my thing, trying to run a business and buying my wear parts from other small businesses. I was happy, things were good, we're just trucking right along. So I go to order another batch of wear parts, and my parts guy, who is a small business, family-owned, Midwest guy, says, "Hey man, sorry to break it to you, but I'm not carrying or supporting FECON stuff anymore. They are actually suing me and trying to shut me down completely. So I can't even sell the inventory that I currently have, more or less have any more made or anything else." So he's like, as of right now, FECON does not exist for me, and I'm sorry, but you're probably going to have to go straight to FECON and order from them. FECON, if you are listening, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So not only from my point of view, do you not care to support existing customers in the field, most of which happen to be small businesses. There are some large companies, but there's a million brand new mulching companies in the last 5 years, and a lot of them are running FECON heads, and a lot of them are small business, just guys trying to live the American dream and start a business and make some money. Not only do you guys not give a crap about customers in the field, but you are actively going after and targeting companies that have decided to manufacture parts to fix problems that you are not willing to fix, and to help support small businesses. You are actively going out and targeting small businesses and trying to shut them down and sue them and play the corporate game when they are actually fixing problems you created. To me, that is a pathetic way to run a business. And as a small business, that is not somebody that I want to do business with or be associated with. I am not going to name the business that I am talking about, because I know that there is an ongoing legal issue. I am not trying to get in the middle of that, but if you are looking at starting a mulching business and you are considering buying a FECON head, be careful what you get yourself into, because they're pretty clearly not going to support you when you're down. They are not going to resolve design issues. And guys, when I talk about the knife design, when I started having problems, I called them directly and spoke to someone at the factory and said, hey, at one point in time, I had about 70 of these knives that were broken half. And the other half of them went flying into who knows where at Mach Jesus, because when the head's spinning at full RPM and that knife comes apart, who knows where it went. I mean, it could have wound up in somebody's living room. I got no idea. But at one point in time, I had like 70 of these things in a box, and I called the factory and I'm like, hey, am I doing something wrong when I'm installing these? Because I got a bunch of them that are like snapped in half, and some of them have been sent into orbit, and like I'm killing these things left and right. They're supposed to be a two-sided knife, and maybe I get a few hours out of it before it snaps and goes into orbit. Like, what am I doing wrong? That's strange. Like, we've never heard of that problem. You know, we don't have any other customers that are having problems. Like, this is the first we've heard of it. So I get online and I start talking to guys, and every single guy I talked to with that style head said, nope, we're having the same exact problem. We've got boxes of these things sitting around that are broken half. We've been talking to the factory. They don't seem to give a shit. They know about it, and they're just acting like it doesn't exist. So when I talk about, like, I've been down this road with them, I'm not just jumping into this stuff with them not being aware. So when I said I went to an aftermarket company that would solve that design issue, they knew they had a problem and they were choosing to completely ignore it. And then they go and start attacking the companies that are keeping small businesses running by fixing the design issue they created. Like, that is not okay in my world. So, long story short, like, I'm in process of cutting ties with any of my FECON stuff. I'm going to be getting rid of my excavator head, and going forward, the equipment that I have been looking at getting and adding recently, none of it will be FECON. Like, I was seriously looking at buying I'm looking at buying a dedicated machine, and I was looking at buying a FECON dedicated mulching machine just because of Vermeer Midwest and the dealer support that I get through them. Unfortunately, at this point, Vermeer only carries FECON stuff, and so I am going to buy a different brand of dedicated machine to avoid working with FECON. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get that machine through Vermeer because Vermeer only carries FECON. It is literally, FECON has shot themselves in the foot so bad that they are making me give up on one of the best dealership experiences I have ever had because my experience with the product was so bad. But guys, that says a lot, because obviously I've had a few frustrations along the line with FECON, and I just kind of ate it and kept going and was going to let it be. If they wouldn't have crossed that line, I'd probably be running FECON stuff for the next 30 years, 20 years, whatever. Now, I don't ever want to do business with them again. Unfortunately, since they're attacking the small business suppliers that I need to keep running, in order to keep this head going, I am gonna have to buy parts from them, the wear parts from them, until I sell this head and replace it with something different. I don't know. You make your own decision. Maybe I'm being a big baby and being big, dramatic about it. Call it what you want, but I am willing to eat a ton of expense and go through a ton of hassle to switch equipment from one brand to another, because my experience with this company has been so negative. If you're looking at starting a mulching business and you're trying to figure out what head you want to run on a machine, here's some information for you. What brand am I going to go to, or what brand would I suggest? I'm not even going down that route. You make your own decisions. Talk to guys that run them. I got a pretty good idea what direction I want to go, but until this head is sold and the new one shows up, I'm not making any commitments. So, like I said, I'm looking for a well-designed product from a company that operates their business in a way that I feel is acceptable and makes a good product and can support it. In my personal experience, FECON is no longer that company for me. So, guys, like I said, I know this video has been stupid long and it's just me ranting inside of the machine, but as a small business owner that is trying to survive a flooded market and a slow economy and all the other things that go along with operating a small business, this is information I would want to know if I'm looking at making that kind of investment. Take it for what it's worth, guys. I don't know how else to say it. Like I said, I apologize for this video being what it is. Normally when I have a negative experience like this, you guys never hear about it. I don't like to knock any other business, but to me, the small business thing is so important that I felt like this had to be addressed. Not only because it is forcing me to restructure my business to what I think is acceptable, but also because I don't feel like that is an acceptable way to treat any other business, especially a small business. Yeah, it's kind of a crappy situation, and it's one that I wish that was different, but like I said, for the guys that are looking at getting into this for whatever reason, I wanted to put this out there, because if I would have seen this or a video like this before I bought this equipment, I may have gone a completely different route. So it is what it is. I appreciate you guys sticking around. I know this wasn't a fun video, but that was kind of the point from